2023, what a year. Lots of ups and downs. There's been so many things happening personally as well. And I'd like to take a moment here to kind of like have a review of the whole year, because I feel like this is one of those years that is pivotal for the games industry, for where we're going as artists, and also personally for me as I continue growing in this industry. I do think that this will serve as a reminder for the future, where we're going to be for a year or two from now. But I do think that there's a moment here that we need to reflect upon the things that have happened this year. And there's so many things to cover that I actually got my notes here with me. And I'm going to bundle it as best as I possibly can for all of you in this video to hopefully have a year in review so we all can reminisce on the good and the bad that has happened this year. So without further ado, let's get started. So, welcome to another video. My name is Harvey Newman. I'm here as usual to actually share my passion for games, animation, and the games industry in general. In this video, I would like to reminisce a little bit about the year, a year in review type of video. I like to do these things every so often. I've done it previously in this channel, but this year is special. This year is very special because both personally and in the world of games, things have changed so drastically that it's worth taking a beat to kind of like digest what has happened so far and where are we going from here, right? So I'm going to take a moment here right at the beginning and kind of reminisce about last year, because last year I was in a completely different mindset and I really didn't know where things were going. So I actually quit my job not long ago. I don't know if you guys remember this video that I recorded, and I was basically telling you guys that I was resigning my job as animation director and I didn't know where things were going and I needed your support. And a year on from that, or a year and a half on from there or more, I want to thank you guys first and foremost, because things have paid off in a huge way. And if it wasn't for you guys kind of pushing me and giving motivation with all your comments, it wouldn't be possible really, because I really needed that support. I really didn't know where I was going, right? I didn't really had many consultancy gigs. I didn't really had a lot of work opportunity. I did, but I didn't really want to go the route of the usual getting a full-time job to then work on another AAA game. I was kind of like, done with that in a way, and I wanted to go into consultancy so I could basically work on my own projects as well as, working in games as well. So that worked out incredibly well. Thinking about this other projects, I started kind of thinking about, Proxima and starting my own game studio, so I did. Now, fast forwarding to like January last year, we actually had a few team members and we started thinking about a lot of stuff. The state of the world was kind of weird because the very first ramblings of AI started kind of like showing up in the world. It was nothing big. Believe it or not, OpenAI is just out there for a year or so, but they've been doing so many things so fast that it feels like longer. But it's been only a year of AI, and right in the beginning, January, February, there was the first rumblings of AI. Nobody was really paying attention, especially in animation. So for me personally, I was kind of working the same exact way, and we were thinking at Proxima to actually work on our video demo of the game to take to GDC. And this was another milestone for me. I was just getting used to actually being the owner of a company. I was just getting used to kind of having a team of my own. We were all hyped internally about having a game that we could actually look at. We're like, so many times we said in the beginning, I cannot believe we're making a game. Oh my God, this is coming together so nicely. In about 5 weeks, we made a really compelling demo to take to GDC. Now, I already made a video previously talking about my experience in GDC and Gamescom, so I won't go into it. Definitely check it out if you haven't so far. But that experience was incredibly pivotal for me, because that was the moment that I finally realized what it is like to be a CEO, owner, have a team, and chatting with the CEOs, making sure that you actually get experience from other people. It was great. At this point in time, we were all thinking about publishers and investors, because that was the way that it was for the last few years. And everything was fine. So we're about April, May of the year. And at around the same time, I don't know if you guys remember, but just at the end of that last year, I announced that I was selected for YouTube Black, and I was so happy. So the whole program takes about 6 months and it starts in January. So at the same time, in January 2023, I started getting invited to different things for YouTube down in London. meeting different YouTube creators, feeling incredibly good, but things were very busy because I was doing the work, the day job, I was actually working at Proxima, I was doing these videos for you guys, and on top of that, I was also going to YouTube meetings and events and all that stuff, which is great for networking and also learning more about how YouTube works and some of the things that you can do better, some of the things that you're perhaps not doing so well. So then at around May or so, we got an invitation, April, May, we got an invitation for a celebration, right? A YouTube celebration, YouTube Black celebration. And this was going to happen in Kenya, out of all places. So, you know, my parents are from these islands of Africa as well, west coast of Africa, called Cape Verde. So in all my life, I've only been to Cape Verde in Africa. I've never been anywhere else because I kind of thought that even though I was incredibly interested to go to so many other countries in Africa, there was no need for me to go anywhere else. I didn't know anybody else in other countries. Well, ish, I had friends, but not like super close friends. So there was no need for me to go anywhere else in Africa. And here's my opportunity for the very first time to go to Kenya, which is one of the top countries that I wanted to go to. South Africa, Kenya, most likely Egypt, maybe. So for me, it was like, oh my God, I could get to go to Kenya, and then we get to go in safaris. We get to go actually meet other YouTubers. We get to go through YouTube. We get to go to parties, and all of it is actually kind of like sponsored by YouTube. And it was so dope. I cannot deny it was an amazing break right in the middle of the year as we were working incredibly hard and doing all these things that I just mentioned previously. It felt like exactly what I needed at the time that was needed, right? It was a super special and an experience that I'll take with me forever. So this was basically midsummer, like June of this year, and then basically I had to make a decision because I was so exhausted at that point that I thought that I had to actually take a break. So myself, Camille, my wife, and my kids, we decided to go down to Cornwall, to Devon to be exact, and to just take like 2 or 3 weeks of like, you know, just chill time, because we had to, especially me, I had to really assess where we were and where we are going. And at this time, this is when we start seeing like a lot of the stuff that is started happening negatively with the games industry started happening around summertime, where a lot of companies started shutting down, a lot of companies started struggling to get money for their projects, and investors and publishers were not investing in anything, or, you know, for the most part. And I was starting to get slightly scared, but I thought, since the games industry is here to stay and it's been here for ages, I was, you know, in that feeling, in that mindset that we will continue to be here forever. So this is only a temporary, you know, setback, and, you know, by the end of the year, we're going to be in a better place. All this while I was going through the summer, there was a lot of publishers that were interested, that were no longer interested, and things starting to become very real when it comes to the reality of where the industry is right now. Came back from holidays feeling even more determined to actually make a game demo for us to take to Gamescom, kind of showcase our prowess, our skills, and make sure that people could see that we were there and we meant business. So going to Gamescom was very interesting because, you know, once again, we got amazing feedback, but not a lot of traction. And it was at this point that I started to understand that all of the stuff that is happening in the games industry this year is all to do with investment and publishers, and not kind of like investing and being in pause for a little bit. And this is, I think, is to do with the situation of the world, having wars, instability, banks closing, all this other stuff is having a, you know, a ripple effect on all kinds of, you know, game studios and publishers and investors and all the stuff that used to happen normally. And that there's another added element, I believe personally, that all the stuff that we saw maybe a year or two about NFTs and the metaverse and all these other things are kind of like slowing down a little bit. And because people are not really seeing that getting traction, and that added such an influx of money to the games industry, I think that is also part of the reason why people are trying to kind of like slow down and just assess the situation. Now, because of this situation, I had to reassess how we at Proxima are going to start, you know, pushing our game, pushing our ideas. Is this feasible? Should we continue? Is this really a bad time to start a game studio? The answer is yes. What are we going to do to actually move the ball forward? So Gamescom happened, then we are in September of this year. And this is when we started thinking really strongly about we need to start thinking about this publisher investor situation and how can we go about funding this game with the players, by the players, and then showcase to the players how passionate we are about this idea of making a game, making a studio, and doing it the right way. Now, in all honesty, this has been the biggest blessing that we've had so far, and it's something that I didn't mention so far in these videos, but the realization that you shouldn't count on anybody else except for yourself to make things happen has been the biggest thing and the most impactful thing that we've had internally happen to us at Proxima, because it's very much like leaving your parents. You know, for the first few years you're kind of like trying to rely still on your parents, but then you realize this needs to stop and you go off and do your thing. Well, for us it's kind of that moment. It's a moment where we think that we need to kind of like do it ourselves and continue going for, you know, however long it takes for us to make this game. I do think that people will start actually understanding some of the ideas, the passion, and the dedication that we have as a team for this project. And then things will have a tendency to fall into place naturally. There's something to be said about you putting so much work that is going to be undeniable for people out there to see that you really want to make this happen, and you will make it happen regardless of what happens with the investment, as long as we really believe it and as long as we can invest in it ourselves as we have been doing so far. I think and eventually we'll start attracting people to the idea of our game, of our studio, how we're doing things. Incredibly proud of everybody in the team, incredibly proud of how much dedication they are giving, how much time they are giving for this game, and the results that we're getting, right? Because it's incredibly satisfying to see that. Now, the best piece of advice, and this goes for everybody out there that is thinking about making a game studio at any point, came from somebody that I met at GDC, a publisher that I actually presented to. And the person saw our presentation and saw our GDC video demo of the game of what we had. And it was a good 8 minutes long, and I couldn't go past that point after he saw it because he was so excited about what he just saw. He said, just stop everything, stop. And I'm like, okay, cool. Ask me questions. What do you want? And he said, you did all that in 5 weeks. I'm like, yep. Me and the team, obviously, we're at the point where like 12, 16 people. You did that in 5 weeks. I'm like, yeah. You know, that is more than most studios that I've seen out there, including AAA, can do in 5 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of like familiar. And he was like, well, if you and your team can do this in 5 weeks with no investment, bootstrapping everything, with no money, no external forces, and you guys have such a clear vision and definition of what you want to do, then don't get a publisher. And he was a publisher, so I was like, but aren't you interested in actually kind of investing in us so we can do this together? He was like, yes, but just know that publishers will take most of the cut, you probably make no money, and it's going to be very difficult for you to keep going. So the longer you actually go without investment, the more you can make of the game, and the more you can make of the game, the better position you're going to be in the future, because you're going to have to give less of your company, less of your vision to a publisher or an investor, and therefore you're going to be able to actually retain more of the profits and more of the accolades and all that stuff that you're going to get towards you once you eventually publish the game. And that to me at the time made sense. However, it didn't click. It was very much like, that's interesting, but I still want publisher money, I still want investor money. The more the year has passed and the more I got to the end of the year, the more I realized that I think he was right all along, especially in this year that things are like, it's difficult to get money, because we need to actually kind of like just, you know, as the term says, bootstrap, like, you know, do this by ourselves and just like do as much of the game as possible until things are better, until the right publisher, right investor comes along. And then we will be in a place that we can say, we can negotiate things better in a way. If you're here with me until now and you actually made it throughout the video, thank you so much. Highly appreciate it. Comment below, like, subscribe if you haven't so far. However, I want to reward you guys with a piece of news that I haven't really told many people, and I think hopefully you guys will enjoy it, and hopefully we're going to be there for the big event. But next week we are going to release our teaser trailer for the game that we're working on right now, to be released on Steam, and you can wishlist it as well on Steam. So keep your eyes out, most likely mid to end of the next week is going to come out. We're still putting the final touches on the trailer. It's coming together incredibly nice. We're getting some feedback from external people that are helping us tremendously. So thanks very much for everybody that gave us feedback on our trailer so far. And I hope you guys are there with me for this, because it's going to be a big moment for us to kind of like expose this to the public. And I really hope people like what we have done so far. Thank you very much for all my supporters here on YouTube. Every single month, you guys help me tremendously. If you guys would like to know more, click the join button below so you find out more about what's the perks that you can get when you become a member of this channel. And until the next video, I hope you guys have a great week. Next week is going to be a busy week, so I hope you guys are with me. So until then, stay well, stay safe, peace.